Welcome back to Inside Sources. In this final segment, like I said, we want to look at the question of the challenge that leadership faces in times of crisis. And there are two important crises that we will look at: insecurity and corruption. To join me in that important discussion, I have a former lecturer for over a decade at the University of Kansas, United States, who was also a former director at the EFCC, and who is currently a visiting professor at the Sultan Macedo Institute of Peace, Leadership and Development here at the University of Abuja. I'd like to welcome back to Inside Sources Professor Aminu Ibrahim Guzo, MNI.
MNI. Thank you, sir.
It's important we remind Nigerians about MNI.
MNI, absolutely, absolutely.
Thank you for coming, Prof.
Thank you, sir.
So, we have quite a few issues that have become a crisis in our country. Corruption is one, and insecurity seems to become, So I'd like to ask you, because I know that you have a lot of focus on leadership, looking at your pedigree and profile. What ought to be the role of our leadership when we have a crisis, especially insecurity? What should leadership be doing?
Thank you very much. Now, let's look at what development is all about. Basically, development is improving our activities to benefit people. Now, without factoring ourselves, in other words, without being selfish in the kind of methodology we adopted to achieve that. Now, having said this, coming to the question of leadership, especially in times of crisis, with or without crisis, leadership always stands to be leadership. Now, there are certain factors that really, in every aspect, you see, leadership, sometimes people will look at it from the top. For example, like government officials, like president, like in the states, commissioners, ministers. That's not the case. Leadership, we don't look at it from that perspective. However, elective officials, whenever they become leaders, they have signed a contract with the people to lead them. So that trust between leaders and followers is already there. That one is you can't compromise that. But the bottom line, the followers, who we, the commoners, we definitely have to adopt in ourselves. What kind of, not only adopt, but understand what leadership is demanded from us. So we can't sit down.
So followers also have to lead.
They really have to lead. They have to provide the platform. Now, you may look, anyhow you look at it. Are you looking at a society leadership from bottom to top, or are you looking at it from top to bottom? Now, when you look at the issue, for example, of our country, oh yes, all our top leaders, effective leaders, we really expect, exemplary leadership. But that notwithstanding, and when I do my lectures, on leadership for decades, I always tell the people, don't waste your time. If, for example, your organization sent you for a capacity building in terms of leadership, do not look at it from a perspective of saying, the country leadership is not doing its job, and then why is it so expected? The question now is, when your organization paid for you to come for this workshop or what have you, why don't you focus on that? And I tell them, I said, look, why don't you enter into your office or cubicle or what? Do what you think is there to sustain your organization. That is how we combine every individual. Of course, there are people who probably either ignorance or they have not had that opportunity, because leadership is learned. So if you have people who have not really learned, then we have to find special methodology to be able to make them understand. But if they don't understand and we let them, that's another portion that we're really leaving behind.
So leadership has to be learned. That's what
Absolutely, absolutely. Are we going to continue all the time to talk about leadership as leadership in the 21st century? And that's why we have something now and they said it right, leadership in the new normal or leadership in the moment. Why? Is because you have to train leaders. There are so many trends coming. There's a changing world, changing in dynamics. You know, if we don't understand that, we don't prepare leaders for that to be on top of those emerging trends. We can't say and look at leadership from the advent of the 21st century. No, every time leadership is changing.
Interesting, because...
Yes, and one important thing before I forget, one of the top paradigm shift in leadership is the emergence of EQ.
Of what?
EQ, emotional intelligence.
Okay, EQ.
As against what we used to adopt as the IQ. So, and the EQ now...
So the EQ is rising higher than the high Q.
Absolutely. And when you look at the EQ, and that's the fantastic aspect of EQ, it makes you to understand that it makes you, because basically emotional intelligence is a leader's or a person's ability to manage his or her emotions as well as the emotions of others. Number one. Number two, there is a research that really, at the advent of the century, that shows that every person within an organizational setup is a leader in his or her own right. Going down from physical supervision. Physical supervision, how many people would you really have to supervise everyone? But create an atmosphere, create an environment
where people can
or
use
even
initiative.
Somebody who sweeps the floor, make him to understand he's a leader in his or her own right.
Prof, I want to follow up on something you said about, and this has been quite insightful. What you said about, that leadership has to be learned. I wanted to ask you that, does that mean that we should, because political leadership takes the cake.
Yes.
Just like you said, social contract that says that, look, we give you our rights. You, those of you that you are elected in government, take control of all the things, and they become leaders. And I agree with you that, all of us have leadership roles to play. Do we need to have a system where our leaders who go into politics are trained? Because, just before you respond, because I have interacted with a few of them, especially people in the National Assembly, and even people who become ministers. They don't have there are those that are equipped, but you have very good number of those who have no idea how to lead in public, who don't even know what is expected, and you find situations where ministers, representatives, lawmakers, and other, capacity of leadership, they are learning on the job. Is it ideal to learn on the job, or people should be trained properly for leadership before they get into offices? Prof.
Well, to be very honest, Mr. Lawali, you have really touched a very important segment of really what leadership is all about in relationship to our elective, not even elective, even appointed leaders. Now, I have been personally advocating for that. Now, when somebody, for example, is being elected in a position, remember how sensitive that position is.
Yeah.
You are coming to represent people. There is no joke. And you are coming, and hopefully you are even expected to add, those aspects we have talked about, new paradigm, emotional intelligence, and what have you, and what have you.
Yeah.
If you don't know anything about it, how can you do it?
Yeah.
How can you do it? So, coming to honestly speaking, and I'm now talking about every aspect of leadership. And when I talk about the paradigm shift, and let me also reflect on your first question, whether it's learned. Yes, it's learned. The new paradigm, progressive countries are picking all this. And we have the platform on that. Take, for example, technical know-how alone does not determine to become a leader.
A good leader, yeah.
It can be a bonus, if you already understand the special skills of what leadership is all about. You can take somebody who is really an administrator in Coca-Cola industry, and you can bring that person to head, for example, NNPC or any major thing. He didn't know anything, or she didn't know anything about what NNPC is all about, rather than administering Coca-Cola. And that person can come and be the best leader in the record, in that organization. So yes, we encourage even those with technical know-how to understand what that leadership is all about. Not only understanding, but work very hard to work on it. So I agree with you. Take for even appointments in government. There is need, to have, what do you call that, first day, whether you call it under orientation, or induction. That's the word I'm looking for. Induction, special induction. Get some people, experts. We got them a lot in Nigeria. Come and do this, and we follow that.
Okay.
So it's very important, and that's what I mean by the learning aspect.
All right. Okay. I want to, because of our time and we are wrapping up, this will be the last question. You were a director of organizational support at the EFCC for quite a number of years.
Yes.
And did excellently, by the way. Do you think that we are battling the problem of corruption in the right way that we ought to? Are the leaders showing good examples in that fight, Prof?
Oh, thank you very much. You see, the EFCC, well, I'm no longer working with that, but I'm always by the sideline, always hoping and being very happy to see it progressing. And to be very honest, I can tell you that I'm really impressed. Now, when I was there, I think about 8 special units under my control, and we worked very hard. And the current chairman was actually the number 2 at that time. So we mutually work. I work under him, but I was heading the largest department, in the entire EFCC. And we work very, very hard. Now, like I've mentioned this to you, even criminality is changing its own color, meaning new emergence of trends appearing.
Yeah, new criminal trends.
New criminal, exactly, criminal trends.
Digital.
Now that's why adaptive leadership is very, very important, so that we are adapting to the changing environment. Now, people should be very fair when they look at places like the EFCC. Very, very fair. We were there. We sold, we committed our lives dedicatedly to be sure that really we're human beings. We all have our weaknesses, but we try to do the best we can do. And honestly speaking, I have been watching situation that is what is going on. Now, one important aspect, everywhere you go, definitely you have to look at the staff. What are their problems? What are things you do within the law to address or to motivate the staff? That is currently happening. Oh yes. The chairman didn't even know. We haven't spoken, for a long time. But he didn't know I'm definitely going to be here, rather than saying, but it's my own knowledge of what really I thought about that. And then reforms is really happening. Reform in the sense that, because this is an institution that is improving, by the day, expanding, in another word.
Well, but I didn't want you to limit your answer to only EFCC. I just wanted to look at how we are fighting corruption, and what is the role of the examples that the people at the top set.
Yeah, well, you see...
Is there such a thing as leadership by example?
No, and that's why I'm giving you an example where I know better.
Okay.
Yes, better, is the organization that I used to be.
True.
So, and like I said, and I'm saying that, now whether we say ICPC, I don't know much about, but I know they're all they work together, mutual cooperation, you know, that kind of thing.
And there are other agencies
and
too.
there are other agencies, DIAs, you know, they have code of conduct. You have so many of them. So working together, because that working together is very important. That's how you are able to get the intelligence, you know, sharing intelligence to be able to. But to be very honest, there are people you assume are leaders, and they are the one, you know, who will be messing up. And anytime ICPC or EFCC is really going to investigate, it becomes an enemy. And the first thing somebody will say is that leader in this thing, that leader is that, you know, take for example, like I said in EFCC, there are people, or these young people, sometimes if they are corrupt or they are caught in the course of their investigation, honestly speaking, they've been dismissed. Right. It happens during my time. So it is going on right now. So these are some, but then I don't know why, but people don't hear about that. So people have the right, for example, if you have an issue and you are not helping any of this organization, if, for example, anybody is asking you something and you don't find a way to relate it down there, which means you are all part of that criminality I'm talking about. So it will take, if you don't talk, nobody will know actually what is going on. So the point, once again, because you want to pump up more on the leadership aspect, I would definitely say that from my perspective, now let me share something with you. Very, very important. It's only a leader who really understood very well that can be able to create an avenue to look at trends before they even happens. So the current EFCC, I think they have this thing, what they call, I think it's risk assessment and control department. What does it do? Now, meaning that EFCC, for example, is shying away from curative aspect to preventive aspect. This department is there working with MDAs. Now, all the money coming, for example, to the MDAs before they head where they are supposed to be. This department is looking to ensure that rather than waiting until it happens. So there are so many examples I can give you, you know, on this. And these are all, and then collaboration with, for example, NOAA, National
Orientation Agency, NOA.
It's one big organization. And then you also have, in the curative aspect as well, during when we were all there as a team, you know, and there's that time Magu was the head of, what do you call it? And then, of course, Ola was the secretary, was the number 2 there. There's a full collaboration, you know, with the judiciary. The whole idea is for the judiciary to understand the work of EFCC. So that, you know, it can, we are not saying that, or they are not saying that, give us, be favorable to us in terms of, we have a case, but rather understand, brother.
Let's collaborate.
Any leader who understands that act of emotional intelligence,
we'll do very well.
One thing I want to say here, and I really want people to understand that every one of us, you work private sector, you work public sector, you are a judge, you are an administrator, you are a minister or what. There is one thing we're all targeting to leave behind, and that is called legacy. If you don't have a legacy, by the time you realize that or retired, the clock cannot come down. And people will look at you on how you wanted them to see you.
Thank you so much, Prof. It's a very good place to end it. Our time is short. This is an ongoing conversation.
Okay, good.
And I'd like you to know that we will bring you back.
Oh, I really appreciate
to continue this conversation. Thank you so much for coming to Inside Sources. And thank you for your services. You know the categories you've served in the AFCC, what you are doing currently with the University of Abuja. And thank you for coming back home from the US to come and help Nigeria.
No problem. Thank you, my brother. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you so much.